The point I'm making about emotional intelligence is that just about everything we listed, except the word resiliency, that was the only one that would cross over into male strength. Everything else is female strength. And everything else is connected to empathy, sympathy, which is connected to creating mirror neurons and sustaining mirror neurons for a long time. Okay, was that clear? Sympathy, empathy, listening, articulating, communicating, using the verbals. All of that is, so when we think of emotional intelligence, without our realizing it, we've genderized emotional intelligence, I'm going to argue, more toward female brain. Just like we've created classrooms that are more toward female brain. They're verbal literacy. Use your words, right? The whole system, I would argue, has moved very much toward female brain. A lot of great things about it. We don't want to ever stop using words or being sympathetic. It's not the point. But we have, without realizing it, have gotten rid of male emotional intelligence. And the way we most know that is that only in our era could we argue about whether fathers are important. Right? There's no other era in human history when it would even be an argument. But in our era, you have to actually argue about whether the father is necessary. And a book came out 2 years ago called The End of Men. And it was just politics, but it argued that actually men are not needed. There's no need for them, you know. You've heard this argument, right? Only in our era can you make that argument. I would say the science shows just the opposite, and in fact, just yesterday, because of Father's Day, a whole bunch of studies are coming out, and if you go on Google, you'll see these studies that indicate that actually the primary success factor for both boys and girls is presence of the father during adolescence. Now that assumes the baseline of attachment to the mother, right? The mother, already the baseline of attachment's been established. So this is not anti-mother or anything. It's not devaluing mother. They all say we assume the baseline of attachment with the mother. But in adolescence, between 10 and 20, it's the ones who had father attachment that do better in school, get better grades, are less likely to be substance abusers, are less likely to be physically or sexually abused, are less likely to self-cut, are less likely to be depressed, or right? So there's something biological, I would say, going on, nature-based, and it's really important. And I call it male emotional intelligence. And I just want to give this aggression nurturance and talk about it for a bit, and then I'll show you scans. The term that I use for it is aggression nurturance. So when these guys are bopping each other, that's aggression nurturance. When they're throwing darts at each other, it's aggression nurturance. And sometimes when they make each other cry, it's still aggression nurturance. And so I'll give the example I like to give. So we all have the same language. This one's in The Wonder of Boys, which is there. They were playing street hockey, these kids, 10 to 12-year-old males and females on their rollerblades. They're playing street hockey. 2 goals, here, end of the street. A boy he's on and something happens and he falls, and a girl comes right away, right? And now you know what was happening in her brain. She comes right away and she says, "Are you okay?" So what's happening in her brain? What happened in her biochemistry? Empathy, right? Oxytocin went up, bonding chemical went up. She wants to solve it through bonding. She wants to get close, sensorial. She wants to be empathic, so mirror neurons are flashing through the insula. The cingulate gyrus is processing, what can I do to help this poor fallen child, right? So that's direct empathy nurturance, I call it. Direct empathy nurturance. Absolute and direct, and it happens relatively instantaneously. And without that, there is no human civilization. We'd be dead. So direct empathy nurturance is crucial. It's wonderful. Okay. Then comes this other guy from over here. He's on the same team as the fallen boy, and he goes like this on his skates, and he looks and he sees that the kid is not dead, and he says, get up, we need you." No mirror neurons in that brain, right? No oxytocin running in that brain. It appears no sympathy. It appears no sympathy in that brain. It appears no empathy in that brain. And if we did a strict emotional intelligence and just did all the things we listed as emotional intelligence, which I'm arguing lean more female, we would think that is not correct behavior. But the argument that I would like to make is that in fact, that is just as important, and it goes to that word resilience. That is just as important, because what he says to the boy is, and remember, he's ascertaining that he's not in danger. So that's always my key word for every system. If a child's in danger, then what I'm saying is invalid. Human beings will go to people who are in danger and rescue them. We will do that. That's what we should do, because these are vulnerable human beings. But this boy is not in danger. He skinned his knee and he was crying, but that still doesn't mean he was in danger. And this kid wisely ascertains he's not in danger, even though he's crying and his knee is skinned. And because to this boy, the most important thing is, I gotta help him succeed. I gotta help him have self-worth. And him sitting there crying, there's no self-worth in that. There's no success in that. Plus, we're not gonna win. And we're a team, and we need to win. And we're competitors. We are together competitors against another team. So all that is what's going on in his brain. So this fallen child who's crying, he's very quickly and very intelligently saying, I can raise the self-esteem of this boy. And the way I'll do it is I'll tell him to get back up into the system and function. Be resilient, get into the system and function, and then you'll feel good. Completely different approach, right? To raising the self-esteem of this boy. One person's approach, which is very, very important, is direct empathy. I'm going to raise your self-esteem by making you feel better so that you're validated, you've been heard, we know that you're hurting. Another person's point of view is, I'm going to raise your self-esteem by not caring that you're hurt, because truly you're not in danger, so stop whining and get up and be needed. Be needed in this world. Because if you're needed, then you will succeed and you will serve. And I think kind of maybe the deepest thing we've lost in trying to erase male emotional intelligence over the last 50 years or so, and I'm not saying it's been erased, like if you're in football, I mean football, that's a lot of male emotional intelligence in football. But in our systems that we're in, therapy, counseling, psychology systems, educational reform, education systems, and parenting systems, in those systems, we have very much tried to erase it. And the mistake we're making is that we're raising a generation of immature kids. Because if they only have half, they only get half of what's going to mature them. They don't get the other half. And in this gender lens, the other half is coming from people. By the way, sometimes women can be bestowing more male emotional intelligence than their men partners. So again, we all have each other's stuff. There's a spectrum, etc. But if you're testosterone based, if you don't tend to have as many mirror neurons, or if your mirror neurons get destroyed by the testosterone fast, and you want to bring the person back in the system, yes, you're going to tend to have more males who will do aggression nurturance, especially if they're allowed to in the system, and you tend to have more females who will do more empathy nurturance. So that's what I mean by aggression nurturance, and I beg you, that's where I said there's gravitas in this. If we don't look at all the systems we're in, all the schools we're in, all the school districts, all the academic systems we're in, our government agencies, if we don't look at these things from these lenses, without our realizing it, we will just continue to hemorrhage males. And by the way, a lot of females will not succeed either. They'll be, like I said, 35 years old in a workplace, taking everything personally and unable to climb and get to the top, you know. They won't be Hillary Clinton. You know, Hillary Clinton is an example of someone who does not take things personally, right? I mean, that woman gets attacked probably every hour, and she climbs to the top. That's kind of, to me, amazing maturity. Not taking things personally. Whether you agree with her politics or not, it's not the point I'm making. I'm saying that's a person who has figured out that you need both female and male emotional intelligence, you know, I think. But that's hard often for a lot of folks and a lot of women now, I think, don't get enough. And so when women tell stories about why did I succeed, they love their moms, but you read these memoirs and they'll go, well, I had a dad who would not let me, you know what I'm saying? My dad did such and such. He made me keep doing such and such. So I think there's something valid there, even though I don't want to say women can't do it or that men can't be empathic. I mean, I think I'm empathic. So we can both do both. But what we need to make sure to do is don't erase this aggression nurturance, and in fact, train everyone in it, teachers and parents, so that whole systems can accommodate it. And so that unless a child is in danger, we will have parents stop calling schools because their son or daughter cried. And stop complaining to the school, because they'll go, oh, wow, maybe it was good that my child cried, because maybe that means that all this nurturing happened. And so I wonder if my child learned something from that, as opposed to, oh my God, my child cried. The school did something wrong. So I don't think we're going to get that result unless we get them to understand male emotional intelligence better.